Hey, 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 Fit Mama. Jen Oliver here, your host of the Fit Mama podcast. This is the work in to your workout.
Hey, Fit Mama. I am so excited to have you here for episode 35. This one is the throwback. The throwback is because I am currently staying at my parents' house. Have you ever done that before? Later in life? It's a throwback no matter what. And my parents are moving from their house at the end of the summer. And so we decided, my little sister and I, to come out here, bring our kids and stay for a few weeks and enjoy the pool and enjoy our mom and our stepdad and our family and just enjoy life together. And the last few summers, I have been so full on mode with work. And really for the last 4 years since I started Fit Mama Global was born in 2014, and it was full on mode. And when I say full on mode, if you were a part of it and if we've done some work together, if you'd followed me online, you will know that there was a lot going on in the last 4 years. And I decided with a real intention to play more this summer, and with that intention to play, be more with my kids, and just enjoy my days instead of working all day. Could it be possible? Was my business at a place where that was possible? And the answer was yes. And I took the opportunity. So it's a throwback. I'm staying at my parents and I'm working on the road. You're here with me, my mic, and my favorite Fit Mamas. And I am actually currently sitting in the room that I started my first podcast in. And those of you who were listeners of my first podcast will remember it, called Kaizen with Jen. And Kaizen is a Japanese principle of continuous improvement. And I remember when I was thinking about starting my first podcast, I loved podcasts. I listened to them all the time. I was commuting a lot to Windsor and Hamilton to be with my husband and to be at school, because I was doing my master's about 2.5 hours, 3 hours away. So it was a lot of driving. So I got into podcasts, I got into radio, listening to a lot of satellite talk radio, and had some favorite people. And I know you're out there listening. Maybe you were a fan too of Wake Up with Taylor on Sirius XM Stars. I listened to her back in the day. And when I used to drive for my master's, classes and tutoring and doing all the stuff back and forth, I would listen to Mel Robbins, who now has since reinvented herself from radio host to global mogul with her 5-second rule and the empire that she's created around that. And she's actually writing another book right now, which is amazing. And I'm going to be writing another book coming up. And this was actually the room I'm sitting in where I would podcast and where I wrote my master's thesis, which was really very exciting. And I don't even remember the title of it, but it was about self-regulation and AKA willpower, and how emotions, AKA how you feel, affect how you behave. And it was really interesting. It was a hundreds of pages document. And to not bore you with the details, go back and listen to the podcast on willpower. I don't remember off the top of my head which one that is, but if you haven't, I would really recommend starting these podcasts from the beginning. If you're starting right now and it's 35 and you just started around 30, or you just got into it last podcast, then go back, start from the beginning, Fit Mama, because I know you will benefit so much from listening to these things, because it's honestly hilarious to be in my old room that I used to stay in. I didn't grow up in this house that my parents are selling or have sold and they're leaving at the end of August. They moved in here in 2004. And so here I am in Hamilton, Ontario, and they're moving now out of Hamilton. I have loved living partly. I never really lived here other than when I was doing my master's, which was in 2007 to 2009. And it's actually 10 years ago in 2008 when I started the podcast Kaizen with Jen. And I've just loved researching all this stuff. I've enjoyed Hamilton in terms of going to school here, but I also enjoyed the city. I would listen to audiobooks and podcasts for 1,000,000 hours running around Hamilton. I actually lived in Hamilton part-time when I was training for the marathon that I ran back in 2008. And so that was even 10 years ago now. And speaking of 10 years, my brother-in-law, whom I love and just am so proud of, because 10 years ago this year, 2008, he actually ran across Canada. So he was raising awareness for autism and the autism spectrum disorders, and it was incredible feat. He basically ran the equivalent of a marathon a day for 9 months. Okay. I'm going to say that again. The equivalent of a marathon a day, every day for 9 months. This is my brother-in-law, my sister's husband. So crazy enough, my sister was crazy enough too. They had just started dating and she drove behind him. He had this dream. It's called Run the Dream. And he had this dream that he would run across Canada and he really wanted to raise awareness and he wanted to help out people. So in each community that he ran through, he created events and my whole family was involved. My dad and mom just were amazing setting up events and driving and setting up hotels. And I know my stepdad was just the most instrumental in all of it. My mom made all the marketing material, all the editing. She's into photography, so she's super great on Photoshop and she prints things. And it was just a real family affair. So I was a witness to this when I lived here part-time when I was doing my master's. And it was just so cool because my sister, her dedication to her boyfriend at the time, was admirable, and my family getting all into it, and his dedication to raising this awareness and just pushing himself through unbelievable, 9 months of running every single day for I think it was around 25 miles really every day. It was just nuts. So anyway, he started in Newfoundland, St. John's, Newfoundland, where my sister lives. And he ran out to Victoria, BC, which is completely nuts. So their second daughter, her middle name is Victoria, and she's just the cutest little thing. So my little sister, she is here for the summer with her 2 kids and my 2 kids, and then my stepbrother, his wife, and their son, Chase, what a cutie, he's here too. So we have the fabulous 5 hanging out this summer at what we call the resort or the spa in Hamilton, which is my parents' place. And it's pretty awesome here. So we've had a lot of good summers, 2004 to 2018. So 14 years. My parents were living in Hong Kong for a couple years, so we weren't here. But other than those couple years, we've had some amazing times. It's just a real throwback to be in this room where I wrote my thesis, be in this room where I did my first podcast, be in the city where I ran and trained for my first marathon. And, he was doing a marathon a day for 9 months. So I was like, surely I can do one. So this, when you put things in perspective, who wants to run 26 miles? That seems crazy. Well, once seems not that crazy when you see someone doing it every day for 9 months. So when you look at anything, look at it all relative to something else, right? And this is why I always, remind you, Fit Mama, or whomever, is that there's no point in ever comparing yourself to someone else and putting yourself in a negative light because you're, I'm fatter than so-and-so, or I'm, not as good as so-and-so. Well, you know what? So-and-so is also fatter than you, and so-and-so is not as good as you. There's always going to be someone richer, taller, skinnier, thinner, shorter, cuter, smarter, whatever than you. And I really, sitting in this old room of mine, that's something I taught on the Kaizen with Jen podcast 10 years ago. That really is one of those things where you can just say enough is enough, right? Enough is enough with the comparison. I'm just going to live my life one day at a time, because you know how quickly 10 years goes by? And I know you do, right? That's a rhetorical question because I know you do. It's flown by in your life. You look back 10 years ago, dig up an old picture, ask yourself what you were doing, look at where you've come, what you've created, humans or otherwise. It's incredible. So give yourself a big hug right now with me. I'll give myself a hug, because when I was here, I was an incredibly wise 26, 27, 28-year-old. But you know what? I was so naive, and I also had so much more to learn. And right now I sit here humble and so naive with so much more to learn, but incredibly wise nonetheless at the age of 37 as to the fact that I am living the truth that is my truth. And being home here only just reaffirms that. I just feel so safe within my own body and happy within my own self. I feel trusting of me. I feel trusting of my husband, my kids, my family. I feel as though I've helped create it and also just gotten out of the way to say, this is what I want. Show me it, right? Show me it. And it's one of those things I learned. Dr. Wayne Dyer, you'll hear me quote him millions of times, and he's one of my favorites. But I always listen to his books and his audios and his videos and all those things because he really inspires me. And one of the things he says is, what doesn't he say? But really, the thing that he always says is that setting your intention for what you want and then getting out of the way, right? Or bringing our ego into it, thinking we have control, is edging God out. And I don't talk a lot about God on this podcast and, in life, really in general, but I do talk about God when I'm doing my prayers, and I do pray every single day. And what praying is saying thank you. And it's just saying thank you for what you have, or thank you for what is. Thank you for what you're grateful for. Thank you for the things you'd like to see as well. And this is really that magic of manifestation, is saying thank you for things that aren't here yet. But it's not thank you for the bicycle I want and the new mansion or house or car. It's thank you for our health and our continued prosperity. And thank you for our abundance of love. And thank you for the positivity that surrounds us. Thank you for keeping each of us safe. Thank you for keeping us happy. Thank you. Just immersing yourself in the thank you is what prayer is. And edging God out and bringing your ego into it is that what Dr. Wayne Dyer is talking about, because we're getting in there and trying to control. And that's one of the things I learned early on, and have still had to remind myself every day, because learning is not a one-time thing. It's repetition and it's practice. It really is about realizing that you getting out of the way and setting that intention for how you want it to be. And when it comes to anything, I've been doing a lot of reading lately, interestingly, because that's what's coming up for a lot of my clients, is relationships. And my own relationship with my own husband, of course, comes into play because I'm thinking about my clients' relationships and talking about it. And of course, my own experience is going to come into it. But it's really interesting how anything we want starts with setting that intention. And if we don't realize what the intention is, we go through the motions and we act in reaction instead of proaction or being proactive. And for my marriage, I know, we say vows, or we have this marriage, or we have a wedding and do a ceremony, and, but how serious do we take this? And, sitting in this room where I used to sleep away from my boyfriend at the time. We were living together before we got married, and this is a real common thing nowadays. And, no judgment to what you do or don't do, but, looking back on it, there would be something sacred about living in separate houses until you get married and setting this real intention for how you want your marriage to be and talking about all those things. And I'm like, of course we did that with my husband and I. Yes, sure. But when you read books on it, you go, okay, really? Did I go into this much depth? And, I didn't do marriage counseling or premarital counseling. And, I didn't talk about, I don't know, some things that these books lay out. And I go, wow, well, things were working out pretty well, but maybe I intuitively knew this was my match without having all those conversations, because I knew there were no red flags in those areas. And I was honest with myself that I wasn't trying to change this person. And, I went through a lot of frogs, let's say, to get to my prince and my king now. And being here, actually, I'm sitting right in front of me is my Queen's Golden Gales basketball program from 2002 to 2003, when I went to Queen's, and some of my longtime very best friends are on the cover of this magazine. So I'm looking at it. Casey Pratt, if you don't know that name, I played with her at Queen's for 5 years, 2004. I think she played 4 years with me. Yeah, 4 years. My gosh. Andrea Hansen, my fave. We used to joke. Her nickname was Ange. I called her Ange, but the program, actually, I'm going to look in the program to see if it says this. It used to say Hans for Hansen. For her last name was Hansen, Hanson. And so for short, it was like Hans, which nobody ever called her, but spelled hands, not like hands that you have on your hands, but hands, like for Hansen. But then it was Hans, in my opinion. I was like, oh, look, it's Hans, our German exchange student player. Andrea, Ange, I don't know. So anyways, rolling jokes. It's bringing it all back. Oh, no, this program doesn't have it. So we must have told him to take it out. But anyway, such old, fun, jokes looking at this old program. I got to post some pictures for my girls. But anyway, this program, I opened it up, and I think it was my brother or my brother-in-law. No, I think it was my mom, found Chris, my husband, my now-to-be husband, who was the men's basketball coach when I played on the women's team. So make that connection. We won't go deeper there right now, but he was in the program, and I didn't really know him then. But oh my gosh, he looked so cute. And it was so long ago, 2002. It was 16 years ago when I played basketball at Queen's with all my girls who I still talk to every day, every week. And we're planning vacations and we speak all the time and we're so connected. And it's so funny to think that time flies. And that is 2002. And here, my parents moved in here in 2004, which I was still in university at Queen's until 2005 when I graduated and moved to Windsor because my husband, boyfriend at the time, moved down there for his job where he's at the University of Windsor. And so it all comes full circle. And that was now 13 years ago that we moved to Windsor. And I love Windsor. And you can hear me actually on an episode of the Straight Outta Windsor podcast, which I will link into the show notes, that episode, because it really was a good one. And I'm such a proud Windsorite. And, my parents have lived in Hamilton for 14 years. I've lived in Windsor now for 13 years, and that's the longest I've ever lived anywhere. I grew up in Toronto, but that was after my parents divorced, and we lived in Caledon before that. And before that, we lived all over Toronto area, GTA. We were never downtown until after my parents got divorced. We moved downtown into the annex area of Toronto, if you're familiar. And I grew up there for a number of years living in the annex, which was a beautiful area. I loved it. But then my mom got remarried to my stepdad, who's an incredible man. And that was in 2000 and gosh, when was that? I don't know. They just celebrated 22 years. So they celebrated that. Then we moved to Ottawa. So I went to high school in Ottawa for my last 4 years after going to my first year at Jarvis Collegiate in Toronto. So that's a throwback too, because right now, one of the guys that I went to school with at Toronto, Jarvis, and played basketball with and have old pictures of us together at the athletic banquet, Charles Kissy, ended up being a longtime friend of my husband who coached him in basketball. And now they're both basketball coaches. And Charles actually just got promoted to the 905 Raptors assistant coach, which is the G League team for the Toronto Raptors, which is very exciting. And that's an awesome position. And Charles Kissy is amazing. And it's just so funny that I went to grade 9 with him and then moved to Ottawa and had 4 years of amazing experiences at Glebe Collegiate in Ottawa and Ashbury College, which were my 2 high schools I went to there. So in 2000, I graduated from high school and then went to Queens for 5 years after that. So I was all over the place. And, it's been really nice having my parents so settled in Hamilton, which ironically is a random place for them to settle because for 99% of the time they've lived here, actually all the time they've lived here, my stepdad or mom has never worked in the city of Hamilton. They've worked all around the globe, and online, but never in Hamilton. So it's funny. They've laid down amazing roots, and they were actually at a wedding in Spain just right now. Actually, they're right now. They're there. It was yesterday, and they've been there for 10 days, and they ran into friends of my husband, again, Chris, my husband used to coach at McMaster, small world. He lived in Hamilton far before my parents ever lived here. And he coached with a coach named Joe Razzo. And Joe Razzo is a fabulous guy. I remember him from back in the days when I played against him because he was the McMaster coach. And Chris was one of his assistant coaches forever. So Razzo was his mentor. And long story short, my parents and Razzo were at this wedding together from Hamilton in Spain yesterday and sent me a selfie, the 4 of them, my mom, my stepdad, Razzo, and his beautiful wife, Catherine. And it's just so funny. So I love that it's just a small world and that the relationships you create and that you make and the people you know somehow are never too far away. And I want you to think about what is the throwback in your life and where have you maybe neglected some relationships or maybe burned some bridges that really never served you, or maybe those people didn't serve you, so that was wise. But just looking back and realizing that every step of the way did build up to creating the life that you have right now and the you who you are today. And if we can each just take pride in who we are and be grateful for the experiences we had and just do it without saying, right? We don't need to critique the experiences. I can look back and probably think of 100 regrets that I really shouldn't have done that, or why did I do that? Or that was just such a effing poor decision. But if I look back only with positivity and know that I'm just grateful because all those experiences made me who I am today. And now let me be me. Let me just choose in each moment, how do I want to show up? How do I want to be? Because who I was in the Queens, this McMaster, this master's degree, my husband, none of that is me. And none of what you have going on in your life is actually you. That's just things that happen. That's just stories you can throw back and tell. That's just part of your history. And it makes up a piece of you, but it makes up a piece of your story. It doesn't make up you, because you are the one who shows up every moment and is that one shining through, right? This is the same body that played basketball at Queen's University, sure, but it has the same scars. It has the same injuries that I feel that I remember getting back then. But that little inner light, that soul, that you, that little piece of God, if you will, that piece of the universe, right? I like to look at it like this. The ocean is God. Okay. The ocean is God. So you can go in there and with your boat and try and control things. And then God's like, okay, this is your own thing. Just like the ocean and nature, Mother Nature, our mother will just do her own thing, right? It's not up to you. And we, just like a drop of water is a piece of the ocean. It's a drop of the ocean. It's a piece, but it has everything that the rest of the ocean has in it. That water molecule can't be deciphered from the rest. That is us as humans, as a piece of the universe, right? A piece of God, a piece of Allah, a piece of whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. You are a piece of it, just like the water is a drop of the ocean. And so each moment you can show up and be the you that you want to shine through, the you that all those experiences created to be here in this moment and show up how you want. Because any moment you have a choice, because everything happens now. And that's just the reality of it. Nothing happens in the past. Everything happened in the past, but that was the now then. And when things happen in the future, it will be the now then. But now is the now. And wherever you go, now is there. And however you show up, you have a choice. And you don't have to lean on the fact that you have a degree or you have a job or you have a business or you have a personality. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. How you show up is your light. It's your light. Can you just show up and be light? I had a posture twitch as I said that because it was like, wow, can I show up and be light? And the answer is yes. If I can be present for that moment and choose to do that, if I'm not caught up in some story about something that happened in the past or something I think should happen in the future, that's the power of realizing that time is kind of this weird illusion that we all live by. Right now, there is a certain time allotted and things take a certain amount of time. But time is really, really interesting in that it can be manipulated. And one of my mentors wrote a book called The 3-Minute Coach, and his name is Marcus Bird. And he is, really brilliant, among other things. But one of the things I love is that he explains well how this fact of time that we all abide by so intensely, and we must because things go by that. And there is a time and a place for time, but that time is also an illusion. And so his explanation of this, which I will share with you because it's brief, is basically that you can imagine yourself at a party, okay? Let's say you and your friend are going to a party, or you and your husband, or you and whomever, okay? You're going to a party with someone and you go and it's their friends, okay? It's all their friends and they're talking about all these old times and it's like, okay, I don't remember any of these times because I went there and I wasn't, hello, does anybody care about me? And you're like, oh my gosh, this is so boring and this is so long. And what am I going to do this whole time while my friend / hubby or whoever is having the time of their life parading through their past? So while you're sitting there bored AF, they are sitting there going, I am having the best time. This party is the best and all that comes with that. So you two are experiencing time as we know it, chronological time. Right now it's 2 p.m. or whatever time it is for you. That time is flying by for your friend who you went to the party with. Like they are going, oh my gosh, 3 hours just went by. I thought we just arrived. And you are like, 3 hours has gone by. I have patiently been waiting since minute 2 that I've been counting down the minutes, right? And so you're experiencing time in a much different way. And the fact is that we are all just experiencing time because time is only experienced, just like life is experienced, right? Life is experienced and we have to be there and be fully aware and present to experience it. And coming back to this home where my parents were and are and where my family is and now where my kids are playing in the pool that I used to be in and play in and them playing in with them. And, to be in this space, it just makes me really realize the preciousness, fleetingness, and also non-preciousness of time, because it's not something you can hold on to, right? And one of the things I love studying is this concept in Buddhism of clinging and craving, because that's what a lot of my clients do and a lot of fit mamas do. And I personally do, everything I do and work with my clients is something that I somehow know to some degree and I have felt. And it's so common to be craving things or clinging to things, looking at my old Queen's yearbook, right? Or basketball yearbook, whatever, it's reminding me of the going to the bars and meeting guys. And, I was telling my sister this story that I went to Queen's thinking, I know I'm going to meet my future husband here. Like, don't people meet their husbands in university? And I had this, Prince Charming idyllic idea of what this was going to all be. And so funny enough, I imagined, how cool it would be. I went to Queen's, my husband went to Queen's. Oh, it would be so cool, right? Like this was going to be some great story, love affair, whatever. And so looking back, I just think of all the, frogs, or if you will, but experiences that I had and beautiful, loving relationships that I had that just weren't meant to be, or I was in them for rescuing someone or fulfilling some need in myself that was actually rescuing me or whatever, right? We can all go to therapy for months and years over what our past could be. But at the end of the day, I realized that what is meant to be will be. And I've been singing this, and this has been my mantra. Ironically, speaking of mantras, I've been teaching my kids some mantras, which has been fun. We've been running it like a little spa boot camp, retreat center here. But what is meant to be will be. And I don't know if you've been listening to this song, but Bebe, Rexha and Florida Georgia Line, I have been loving this. I'm going to post a little clip of it in here. I'm going to get my audio engineer, amazing Joseph, to put it in here for you, because what will meant to be will be. I don't even know, but it's so good. And my singing, I've been working on it because I've been chanting my mantras, and I'm really thinking about taking singing lessons, because I realized that I never gave myself the opportunity, being back in one of my younger years, childhood homes, is making me realize, I never gave myself the opportunity to let myself sing and be free with my voice. My mom and I joke that all the time that we are both tone deaf, and it was great jokes. And I'm still happy to joke that I'm tone deaf. And I'm telling you, I know that I am. But I also could not be as tone deaf, right? I also could start to just appreciate and enjoy the sound of my own voice. And maybe with practice, that could happen. And it would be beautiful to listen to me singing my mantras and feeling beautiful. But I've been singing them with my kids. And I don't know if you've ever attempted meditation or mantras or chanting ohms or any words. We chant these Indian words that I learned at this beautiful retreat, the Ancient Wisdom Retreat with Mira. If you haven't met Mira yet or followed her, she's online at Miracle, MEERACLE. It's beautiful what she does. She teaches a lot of beautiful mantras and chants, and she teaches full moon meditations and Kundalini yoga, and it's beautiful. And I've been doing a lot of it with my kids, and my daughters sing beautifully, and my nieces and nephews, and my nephews, the most beautiful voices like angels when they're singing these songs. And it just makes me stop and appreciate the fact that nothing needs to be perfect, but showing up every day, especially for your family, especially for the people who love you the most, the people who want the best for you, and the people who you want the best for. Those are the people who deserve your energy, your love, your attention, your time, your focus. And that's one of the things I realized being here is how 10 years ago, or 2004 when we first lived here, I didn't have a cell phone. Actually, I just got one. 2004, I got my first cell phone. Yeah, that summer. And then they moved in. Yeah, oh my gosh. So the same year, I got my first cell phone. But it was a flip phone. And to text, you had to be like A, B, C. CAB or whatever. Like, no, I don't even remember how to do it because you had to do it so long. I was like, I'm over this texting thing. I just got to call someone. Now we're like, we don't need to call anymore. We can text. So distraction, right? It's now a part of our life. And being here allowed me to just disconnect and realize that I love being fully present with those I love the most and that love me the most and those that I want to influence, those that I want to be influenced by. And taking time to slow down and be with the ones you're with, it really is important. And it's beautiful to be able to do that. So really take a look at who you're spending your time with, because I'm sure you've heard the now popular adage that you are just like the 5 people you spend the most time with. So take a good look at your family and your friends, your work colleagues. Who do you spend the most time with? Who do you talk to the most? Who do you interact with the most? Even if it's social media or media culture or reading newspapers, or what are you spending the majority of your time focused on or paying attention to? And being here has allowed me to look at, what I created in terms of what I co-created in my life by getting out of the way and also setting an intention and following through on the intentions I set with a marriage that I intend to have last, and a partnership that is full of equality and give and take, reciprocity and gratitude and love, and also really a understanding of what we each bring to the table. And I think that's a really big element that so many of us forget. And reading all these books on marriage or connection and relationships, realizing that there's such a difference between men and women and the male and the female and the masculine and the feminine. And it's a spectrum, and we all have many different variations of how masculine or how feminine we are. And what we bring to the table and what we naturally are is what we want to bring to the table, right? Not being someone different, and really treating your man or your woman like they're your girlfriend or boyfriend. Like when you started dating them, like I remember when Chris and I started dating, and it was so exciting. I remember the first time he met my parents. It was here in this house. He came to the door. It was, he was just in Hamilton. Whoa, that was just a chance meeting. And he popped by for a visit, and, it was all very fun and it was very exciting. And, it wasn't that I was being someone different to impress him, because that would not have lasted long term and he would have seen who I was. But it was just allowing me to truly say, who do I want to be? Because I want him to see the real me and fall in love with the real me, because I've fallen in love with who I see, and it seems to be the real him. And I don't want to change him. I don't want to manipulate him. And so many of the women that I work with, or so many fit mamas, or so many people I see on, well, we won't even go to reality television, but just anywhere around, is that partners, marriages, friendships, any relationships can be taken advantage of. We can take for granted the people who love us the most and not appreciate them, not give them compliments, and taking the time to fill your life up with that stuff, right? Because you can spend time hours in your mind going, oh, my thighs should be smaller. I shouldn't eat this, or I should do this, or I'm not good enough, or he's better than me, or look at her life, or scroll, this, that. But what can you fill your time up that will fill your life, fill your life full with beauty and love and gratitude? And so I spend more of my time in thank yous and listening to music that lifts me up, or I can dance to. We have dance parties multiple times a day, and we get in and out of the pool, and we laugh, and we play games, and we cook, and we enjoy cooking and eating together, and not stressing around these experiences, because I'll get into this in future podcasts because I got to finish this throwback one. But, talking about food and kids and what we feed our kids and how we feel about food, because I realized how often I go to effed up old ways of seeing food when I was focused on food and nutrition and fitness in a different way than I see it now. And I'm realizing things have changed. And, Kaizen with Jen and Fit Mama and all the stuff I've talked about has always been about the work into your workout. And it goes deeper than food and fitness. It's really about that love and connection with you. And obviously, this is what I love to talk about. This is what I've been talking about for over a decade now. And I'm sad to say goodbye on this podcast. I'm sad to say goodbye at this house, but it's really about enjoying the moments that you live because they all happen now and they are happening now. So don't forget to live in the moments with those you love. Be there now. Be there now. Be there now. I'm going to be doing a meditation actually as one of my podcasts. So you can have a meditation where I'll talk you through the meditation. I've had a few recommendations, requests, and desires for this from Fit Mama. So thank you. Feel free to constantly message me anytime, DM me or PM me online because I do check those every single day. Regardless of how unchecked online I am, I do disconnect, but I do have someone and I myself check those every single day personally and write back personally. So don't worry, you are going to get taken care of. So request things if you want. I'm going to be recording a meditation. And I'm also going to be talking about meditation and mantras with my kids, which is so much fun. And it's been incredible. And I'm going to do a little interview with my sisters, which is going to be really cool too. So lots of fun to come in the Fit Mama podcast and lots of raw, real, good stuff for you in terms of helping you really just feel good. Feel good. Always. Why not? Right? Why not? Look back at your life, look at how it served you, and then spend your time in gratitude, Fit Mama. Mwah! Have a great day. Namaste, Fit Mama.